A Jew and a neo-Nazi are not supposed to be best friends. But who's going to tell them? Weirder yet, Barry is still in high school, and Tom is a Vietnam veteran. Getting ahead of you here. No, it's not like that. Barry's a good listener. Tom appreciates that. Anything goes because it's the 80s. They are best friends. And in just 5 short years, these two best friends will be on the hook for almost 600 years of jail time for their exclusively non-violent crimes. At first glance, it seems obvious which of these two is going to corrupt the other. That instinct will not survive over the next however long this is. Over the course of those 5 years, the wonderkind Barry Minkow will commit every single type of fraud imaginable, and by the end of it, will be rightfully convicted on every single one of his 57 charges. This is the story of a carpet cleaning company? No, I sat here and read this entire stupid intro and I held my tongue. The fuck do you mean carpet cleaning company? It's 57 counts of fraud. Fraud of that magnitude needs space. It is impossible to do that. In a service industry, people need once a decade. If you're impressed with what you see so far, please like and subscribe. We're on our way to 20k subs. Thank you and enjoy the chaos. Barry starts his business at 16 years old. Here's a question you haven't considered yet. How? You know, forget the fact that he's probably immature as hell. A steam cleaner is expensive. No bank is giving a kid who doesn't even have a driver's license a business loan. Where's he gonna get his money? Well, it's the 80s. Where else would this story start but in a dingy utilitarian gym? It's where he meets a guy who loans him $1,500 for 50% of his profits. That's a pretty considerable loan. Adjusted for inflation, that's like $5,000. I don't know about you, but there is nothing a kid could tell me to get even $20 short of I am your child. But more importantly, this gym is where he meets the alcoholic, roided out, depressed neo-Nazi, Tom Paget. It's just a different time, man. They go out to the movies together, they go out to eat. Barry listens to Tom explain the kosher tax and that the media is controlled by Jews. It's a good time for everyone. Tom admits that he sees Barry as the little brother he never had. And so when Barry tells Tom that he started Zbest Carpet and Furniture Cleaning Company, Tom is all too happy to help him in whatever way he can. Which is really good for Barry, because very soon he's going to need all the help he can get. Now, Barry doesn't go out into the world with the intention of doing fraud. It's just that, it turns out that it's really hard to run a business. For example, it turns out that people want to have their rugs cleaned during the day so that when they get home from work, they're not standing in a sopping wet mess. And that sucks for Barry, because that's the exact time that he's supposed to be in math class. Also, all of his equipment just got stolen. So he says, I don't trust this guy for shit. Which means I also believe that his mom's wedding ring that was taken during the supposed robbery is also his doing. Either way, miraculously, the guy who gives him the first loan gives him a second loan, which he wisely elects to spend on getting an office space for some reason. And then he steals his grandmother's pearls, this is confirmed to be him and worth several $1,000s, and sells them so that he can afford to replace the cleaning supplies that he was supposed to replace, and then also gets a second, a second office. This guy is insane. Double the offices, double the profit. I think he's aiming for that. If only someone could tell him. This is the gas station sushi copy pasta. Fish! You see, the problem with Barry is that he is a problem solver to a fault. And unfortunately for everyone else, that is the only problem that he is unwilling to solve. But critically, Barry has the opposite mindset of a guy you might have heard of named Abraham Lincoln. There is no problem too grand to be left for tomorrow. He will act on impulse until he is put into the ground. There will be multiple points in this story in which you will assume that I have to be done telling it. All but one of those times, you will be wrong. Okay, here's how the carpet cleaning industry works in the 80s. Get someone like your mom, in this case literally his mom, to go through the phone book and harass every single person by trying to convince them that they need to have their carpets cleaned. Once she makes a sale, clean the carpets for $39 and do not leave until you have turned it into a $140 appointment. Your carpet's missing, I ate it, if you want it back, pay extra. It does not matter, you're not leaving the building until they pay you more. Rinse and repeat, and then you can make $3,000 to $4,000 a week at this minor scale. It's so easy, a 16-year-old can do it. And he is. Now, Barry the problem solver has a problem. He wants more money, which is fine. The problem with that, though, and one that he does not much care to address, is that expansion costs money he is not even close to having available. We do not need inflation Bowser every Meowkit Mayhem. Incorrect. Is this a naked stream? Am I naked? Reminder, he bought the expensive tools, he's renting a building, he's sharing profits with the gym guy, he's paying his mom to call people, he has a couple employees who do jobs when he's in school. He's also taken out an additional $6,500 in loans from random people. And most impressively, he has somehow racked up a bill equal to nearly $18,000 today at restaurants alone. There are NBA players with less aggressive eating habits. I have no idea how he did this. And this is the moment in which he just opened a second storefront. Brother eating the menu and the table. Furniture is expensive. Door dashing every day. I don't think so. I think that we can cross that one off of the list for this 80s company. I think that might be not the issue. It has been 6 months since this man started, and he is already in capital D and also capital the rest of the letters debt. Every check is bouncing. He's had 5 bank accounts closed. Bro, restart the Minecraft seed. Declare bankruptcy. You cannot speedrun on this one. Your greed has consumed you. Or rather, you have consumed your greed. Seriously, what the fuck were you eating? He can't buy alcohol yet. Your Honor, I'm neurodivergent and a minor. Yeah, you're off the hook. That's fine. You can do fraud. But Barry has recently gotten insurance for the company, which means he can now commit insurance fraud, which is apparently the easiest thing in the world to do in the 1980s. Literally, all he needs to do to be able to print $14,000 out of thin air is break down his business's door, make up the most expensive sounding tool that he can think of, and since there is no internet to fact check that the cleaner that he named even exists, they just give him the money? Not even asked to produce camera proof, just here's the equivalent of $50,000. And just like that, Barry is given a completely undeserved second chance at life. He'd do this specific insurance fraud 4 times in his career, by the way. Things are looking rocky still, but you know who's there for him? Tom. Tom is. When Barry comes to him and asks for a loan that Tom can't afford himself, he goes to the bank and takes out a loan in his own name for all of his savings to lend it to Barry. In case it wasn't obvious, Barry is extremely charismatic by most accounts. He's a really great listener, and he doesn't sell people on what his company can do. He sells on what he can do. That's a big tip, by the way. If you're looking to make a sale, sell yourself. For example, he sells on the idea that he can do the act of opening a 3rd storefront shortly after the catastrophe of the second one has just settled. What do you guys think about that? His advisor says, don't do that. Barry says, you're a conservative motherfucker, and then says that thinking will get them nowhere fast. A place that he does not want to go. He wants to go somewhere. So he does. Straight to hell. Because guess what? It's a catastrophe. Barry rushes to withdraw $20,000 to stop the bleeding and handles it so poorly, the bank threatens federal investigation if he doesn't find a fast solution. That's a problem. Barry needs money. He's not making enough of it through legitimate means to pay off his debt, So he starts seeking out bank loans to pay off previous debts to keep himself afloat, in the hopes that the money will eventually come back in the door to put him back at even. What I just described to you is the definition of a Ponzi scheme, also known as a crime. Also, in order to get a loan, you need financial statements and tax returns. And Barry has not gotten this far by planning. So he hires a woman to falsify documents in 10 different ways reflecting different earnings each time. That's like 4 different types of fraud at once. Bank fraud, tax fraud, forgery, loan application fraud. Just like, done. That's it. 4 types of fraud in one act. Good going, Barry. So a pyramid scheme? No, actually, this does not count as a pyramid scheme. Ponzi and pyramid are not always interrelated. Ponzi just means that you are taking money from one source to pay another, which can happen in pyramid schemes, but it just doesn't have to be. Pyramid is like one guy recruits another guy, which recruits another guy, and that's why we call it that. It's a rectangle and a square type situation. Not everyone is, you get it. Okay, moving on. Important to note though, he does all of those frauds for nothing. It didn't even land him the loan because he's an 18-year-old with no collateral in a service industry as a small business, so no one wants to give him one anyway. Of course, Barry doesn't attribute any of that as the reason why banks won't do it. He says that the loan officers are jealous and that they don't want to help someone half of their age be richer than them. So he's doing credit card fraud now because back in the 80s, that's also like extremely easy. You'd have these big clunky devices that imprint the raised credit card number. That's why your credit card numbers on your cards actually are above. You'd need a piece of paper to print on top of it. That's how it used to work. But once you have that, it turns out there's nothing stopping you from fraudulently charging it another time. Huge problem back then. $500 million of that type of fraud was happening a year in the 80s. Won't people notice that they're being charged extra? Yeah, they will. But reimbursement takes anywhere from 45 days to 6 months after they notice, which means these effectively act as a bunch of miniature loans. I should have been more specific. When I say a bunch, I mean $70,000 worth. Barry's in deep shit. Your instinct might be to say, what's the big deal? If you take out a big loan, the idea is that you're gonna pay it back. First off, let's be clear, we're talking about the modern day equivalent of $224,000. Second off, he does not have that money. This is a Ponzi scheme. He immediately sends most of that money to other people he owes it to. Meaning that after those 6 months pass, he is dead in the water. Luckily for Barry, 6 months never comes. Not because he dies, but because the bank does. 4 months into doing this scam, the bank he's doing it through goes out of business. He has effectively just won a free $70,000 and has been given a third chance at life. Who wants a free $70,000? Anyone? And having learned nothing, he immediately uses some of the money to pay for down payments on a $100,000 condo and a sports car. From the outside looking in, Barry appears to be at the top of the world. In interviews, he is stating that Zbest is doing $1 million worth of business a year. Tom isn't doing as well, though. I hadn't mentioned this until now, but Tom was a property appraiser at Allstate. Was as in past tense. Barry got him fired after he stole Allstate drafts to pay customers for damages from Tom's car. When Barry tried to cash them out illegally, Tom was almost criminally charged for the theft that his best friend did on him, but was saved by Barry's smooth talking. Either way, he was fired. Desperate for any money at all, Tom takes up a terrible job at a pistol range as an instructor. He's made to sweep the floor for a fraction of what he made, because of his best friend's greed. It took months for him to finally find a new appraisal job at an auto insurance place named Travelers for still less than what he made at Allstate. Most people would find that to be an unforgivable situation for a friend to put them in. Miraculously, Tom holds no grudge against Barry. Seeing the place that he lives in, Tom genuinely congratulates him for his success. "Jesus, Barry. Things are really going good for you," he says. That's not helpful. Barry needs help. And Tom, with his new job, is finally in a position to be able to do so again. Barry wants to have Zbest expand into water damage and fire restoration jobs, preferably in such a way that he can get paid for it without ever having to do any work. All Tom needs to do is answer the phone whenever a banker asks if the jobs that Barry has described are real. "Barry, are you fucking serious?" says Tom. "I work at an auto insurance company. We don't even work on buildings." "I'll give you $100 a week." That was enough for Tom to hop on board. Tom would steal the extremely professional stationery from his supervisor's office, and Barry would take it and write restoration job requests to himself, forging either Tom's or Tom's boss's name at the bottom. This is one of the biggest dubs that Barry would ever get. He would literally make up fake work whenever he needed to prove to potential investors that he had real jobs with great profit margins that he just needed a loan for. "You'll get your cut later." Of course, that cut will be from a future loan from a different job that he also fabricates, as is the way with a Ponzi scheme, but they don't know that. They're looking at a very legitimate looking piece of paper, and if they have any questions, they'd call Tom, who would affirm that yes, the job is real. Wait. Do you guys hear that? Do you guys hear that? I think you guys might hear that. To me, it sounds like a fourth location being opened in 2 years. Yay! It's a fourth location! But for the first time, because of this new situation, this isn't a financial catastrophe. Just kidding. Did you believe me? Of course it's fucking ruinous. Let me illustrate. Barry is seeking a $75,000 loan for a restoration job that Tom had supposedly approved to be able to afford the expenses of his new office. Barry needs to pay $2,500 up front for an accounting and packaging fee. And by unbelievable coincidence, Barry the millionaire's bank account contains currently exactly one accounting and packaging fee's worth of money. He is playing with molten lava, not fire. Banks are still very much a problem for Barry. A guy at a bank tries to help him out by convincing a manager to give Barry a chance to prove that he could be normal for just 30 days. Barry, the day he gets the opportunity, immediately starts committing check fraud. It's like, put your ass on the line for Barry, and he sticks his finger in there and wiggles it around for a little bit, and the worst part is, he likes poop finger. Barry's Ponzi scheme continues to grow, largely off the backs of independent investors, ranging from stupid to really, really stupid. He, at age 18 or 19, just got given an accumulative $240,000 from a bunch of middle-aged, uneducated white ladies who just really like the sound of what it is he's saying? He starts living even more extravagantly than before, and he's gotten to a point where he is now imploring Tom to finally start his own insurance appraisal service. Perhaps one that is for the building restoration jobs he's still currently confirming through an auto insurance company. Tom's hesitant. He's fine at doing this job, but he doesn't see himself as an independent businessman. "What about Debbie?" says Barry. That makes Tom pause, as Barry knew it would. Tom is infatuated with this woman. I mean, head over heels, cannot look at anyone else, infatuated. And they're not dating. He's under no delusions that they are. But he needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror and contemplate how he is going to be able to afford a life for them that he knows she deserves. The beach house he's always wanted to grow old in. And he's already in his mid-30s, rapidly approaching a decade older than the average American man first gets wedded in 1985. He's not getting any younger. Barry will fund the business, Tom will get a raise, but most importantly to Tom, he will be able to hire Debbie. It's too alluring to pass up. And so Interstate Appraisal Services, quite possibly the most boring company on the planet, is born. Now, as is generally the case with Ponzi schemes, the money needed to keep it alive is always increasing, and as such, so does the size, scope, and scale of the supposed restoration jobs. And as the job sizes increase, so did the questions that Tom had to answer. Now, I'd like to remind you that the correct answer to any question a bank might ask about a restoration job is, "Sorry, Barry was lying. We are trying to scam you." But banks are like so rude and send you to jail and stuff if you do that. So Tom has some concocted answers that the banks liked better for their frequently asked questions. Here are some examples. Question 1. Can I see some pictures of the job site? Yes. Here you are. Here are some pictures. Don't tell the banks this, but between you and I, it's a picture of a random building that they walked up to and took a picture of. Something that anyone could do. Question 2. Why does this job cost so much? Answer. You know how firemen are. Their job is to save people, not save buildings. They don't care how much damage they do. Credit to Tom, that's a pretty good answer. Question 3. Can I visit the job site? Answer. What job site? I mean, no, for legal reasons. Last time someone did, they got hurt and they got sued. It's stuff like this. It's all he ever gets asked, so he gets really good at answering it. Ironically, the more often that Tom and Barry lie, the more trusted that Zbest carpet cleaning company becomes as a brand. Banks and individuals are loaning him money and getting back more than they spent. Every newspaper in California is talking incandescently about the boy wonder, a multimillionaire at 18 off of his hard work and determination. And by the end of 1985, Barry is living in a $700,000 mansion in a gated community with his perfect bombshell high school sweetheart girlfriend, a maid, a gardener, a Ferrari, and at the bottom of his backyard's pool, a blue letter Z, a testament to the empire in which he's made his millions. Zbest Carpet Cleaning has not forgotten its roots. They still do clean carpets, and a lot of them. Barry has several hundred employees working on specifically that. It's just that it wails in comparison to, and this is a true number, not one I'm just pulling out of my ass, the 86% of the business that is essentially a poorly written fanfiction about how Barry has money that is somehow manifested into being a real boy. We are halfway through this story, and it gets markedly worse. At this point, Barry's lies demanded greater and greater organization between the scamming of banks and individual loaners, setting up interstate appraisal services with Tom, and raising money from one source to pay another. But he is simply not stepping up to the task. One time he calls his maid to check his pants pocket for a check he forgot to cash. It is worth $650,000. Barry doesn't even have a wallet. He just wakes up, stuffs a couple $1,000 lying around his house into his pocket, and waddles out the door. In case you haven't been able to put it into words yet, Barry lives in a very odd space where somehow money is both the most important and least important thing to him on the planet. He's completely absent-minded about it, has no interest in tracking or maintaining it, but he expects it, deserves it, and most of all, loves spending it. His favorite thing to spend money on is women, whether that be his girlfriend or other girls he wants to have sex with. Young girls. His homosexual maid says, "I never saw such a parade of more underage good-looking girls in my life." He would pay for his girlfriend to have vacation with her friends, just so he could have the mansion to himself, so he could fuck high schoolers after he's graduated. You don't hate Barry enough. Still on the fence? Okay, let me tell you a news story. Barry's doing credit card fraud again. This time not as Zbest, but as a small floral company named Floral Fantasy, that he bought and put under the name of his employee, Chip Arrington, so that if things went to shit, Chip Arrington would be responsible for the $90,000 worth of credit card fraud that Barry was doing. That's not the bad part. A small family named the Swansons had bought something from them and were surprised to see that the bill for it was $600 for their floral arrangement. So they call Barry, who's all, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I'll have that fixed." And he intentionally waits so long that the Swansons would be stuck with the charge because they didn't, quote, act fast enough, since they assumed that Barry would be rectifying the situation. That's also not the bad part. Reasonably livid, the man of the house gets a subpoena in order, and personally serves it to Barry, who he finds in a parking lot. Barry crumples the papers and throws them on the ground, yelling at the almost 50-year-old not to bother him about chump change, despite undoubtedly having at least that much sitting loose in his pocket, which would have resolved the issue immediately. Barry instead has one of the men standing with him punch Mr. Swanson in the head several times, until his glasses come off. This younger man reaches the glasses before Mr. Swanson can, and briefly appears overcome with guilt, gesturing to give them back to him, as the old man pleads to see again. He is not overcome with guilt. He is taunting him. He drops the glasses to the ground and stomps on them, destroying them instantly. Barry, throughout the duration of this attack, is cheering. Get him. Get him. He deserves it. He deserves what he's getting. This is one of the most despicable people to ever exist. We are now at a point in the story in which Zbest is doing millions in fraud at a time. He gets a loan for a non-existent drapery cleaning machine worth $61,000 like it is nothing. And while he is no slouch with forgery, it could be better. Per the text, from the beginning, lack of good, convincing documents had been a problem for Barry. Yeah, that makes sense. That's also what stops completely above-board small businesses from getting the favorable loans that they want. Without question, the best guy that Barry would ever hire was a man named Mark Moores for bookkeeping. By the end of Zbest, Mark would forge over 10,000 unique documents, with little more than whiteout and his copier machine. You did not hear me. I did not say 10,000 pieces of paper. I said 10,000 documents. Go ahead. Tell me a lie about something that supposedly happened 3 years ago, with exact dates and dollar amounts. Do it thousands of times, not in between other truths that you tell, just pages and pages of lies. Send it directly to the IRS. I fucking dare you. His forgery was so good, he would not be the reason that Zbest gets caught in any of this. No overseeing body ever noticed he did anything wrong. However crazy you think what I'm saying is, it is more so. Is that spaghetti in the copier? Looks like it. He wasn't even hired as a fraudster. Barry's trying to lock down a loan for $400,000. As always, they are desperate for this money because even one day in the red is enough to collapse the entire scam. But these loaners they are talking to today really aren't buying the normal song and dance. Tom's Interstate Appraisal Services company is too small for them not to be hesitant about. Something is clearly not adding up in their minds. One of the guys at the company will not stop calling Tom. Hey, I'm headed to Arroyo Grande. What's the site location? I want to check it out. And Barry is complaining to Mark about the fact that this company will not get off their back. Mark doesn't understand why Barry doesn't just let them visit it. Barry helps Mark understand exactly why. There is no site. I chose a place that was 3 hours away so that no one would visit it. I don't even know what buildings are in Arroyo Grande. I need pictures of our supposed site for our next meeting, or we are all going down. Mark realizes that Barry can't pay him $60,000 if he's in jail, so he gets in a car and drives down there in search of an 8-story building that he can pretend is the restoration site. One small problem though, it turns out that the tallest building in that area is 3 stories tall. So Mark gets a Polaroid camera, lays down on the sidewalk, and takes pictures of the building in such a way that it looks like he's cutting off the top of the building, when in fact, that is the top of it. And then he gets back in his car and drives back to LA. The meeting time comes around. Barry is schmoozing in the lobby with anyone willing to listen. Tom notices something immediately. Nobody is laughing. Nobody is charmed. Nobody is even pretending to enjoy Barry's presence, which for Barry is so foreign, he's not even picking up on it. Something is very wrong. Have a seat. They do. We understand that the restoration jobs you've been using for loans either don't exist, or don't exist with the insurance companies you say they do. They have been found out. The loan company called Tom's old boss at Travelers Insurance. He confirmed that Travelers had never done any work at all with Zbest carpet cleaning. Barry, who is currently dead to rights and about to go to jail, wrongly thinks that he can talk his way out of this one, as he has every other time he's been faced with a problem. Tom's boss signed an NDA. In fact, I had dinner with him last night, but he wouldn't tell you that either. Somehow, it is as if Barry hearing himself talk charges his power level. In fact, he continues, you prove to me that my jobs aren't real. Whether or not Barry realizes it, he is currently speaking to an ex-cop who is using every ounce of self-control he has not to throttle him. Tom just feels like crying. He, unlike Barry, never got the house he dreamt of. He never got to provide Debbie with the life she deserved, and now he was going to jail. Mark shows up on the scene. He simply asks if there is anything that can be done to salvage the situation. The answer is, of course, an emphatic no. This loan will not be forthcoming, but in the future, they are not going to jail. He's letting them go. An attempted crime, sure, but they'd done business before and they'd made money from it. No one was hurt. They walk out of that building with no metal on their wrists, except for Barry's Rolex. They have no time to contemplate what they narrowly dodge. They make $0 from not going to jail, and they always need more money. You know where there's more money? Wall Street. Oh my god, these fucking morons are gonna try to get listed on the... Yes. Yes, they are. You see, one thing that sucks about getting loans is that they have to pay them back. But if people are buying stock, you don't owe them anything. Free money glitch. The main issue here, though, is that a lot of regulations are in place specifically to make sure that a company exactly like Zbest never ends up on the stock market. I think it's important to know there has not been a company before or since Zbest listed on the NASDAQ to be run by someone as young as him. By like a margin of 6 years. There's also never been a carpet cleaning or disaster restoration company. But logos is not an appeal that resonates with Barry very well, so they're going to submit their fraudulent company to the closest scrutiny that they could possibly ask for. Also, while we're just throwing fun ideas out there, I'd like to add that Barry is also at this point telling people that one day he'll be in the White House like Reagan. Mark gets to work forging bank statements with a kind of raw, natural talent usually reserved for concert pianists and like, maybe Michael Jordan. The English language cannot aptly describe how good he is at this. And Tom is... Actually, where is Tom? Has anybody got eyes on him? Tom is lying face down on the floor of the Interstate Appraisal offices in a drunken stupor. Debbie got a boyfriend. A violent, jealous boyfriend who forces her to quit her job. Everything that Tom had been working for had, in a moment, fallen to dust. On the day Debbie quit, Tom called Barry and, sobbing into the phone, threatened to kill Debbie's boyfriend, alternately slugging down a beer and caressing his .44 automatic. Barry, the man who lured him into the office he's bawling on the floor with the idea of Debbie, is incapable of understanding. This could hurt his business. How could anyone fuck up a business over a woman? Barry would ask incredulously. It's probably because Tom hasn't experienced any of the wealth that Barry has. It's been years. He is not in the beach house he dreamed of. Tom is still living in a roach-infested apartment. Not that Barry would know or care. The only thing that matters to Barry is that his number continues to go up, regardless of whether or not that reflects reality. For example, Zbest was claiming that it was making 12 cents more per dollar than General Motors was. You know, a company that's still around and kicking. Meanwhile, over in reality, if you care to visit it, Zbest is in the worst shape it's ever been in. Even the carpet cleaning side of the business is now no longer profitable because Barry is so locked in on maintaining this ever-expanding lie that he literally doesn't even have the time of day to keep the part of it that is real alive. At a time where they are under the most intense scrutiny a company could possibly ask for from one of the most respected and largest accounting firms on the planet, they have all but completely run out of funds. At one point, they attempt to write 5 checks that total $1 million. All 5 of them bounce. Don't misunderstand that. That is not me saying that they don't have $1 million. That is me saying that they don't have whatever the smallest denomination they attempted to send was. They technically have $500,000, but they cannot even dream of touching it because Barry is currently passing it around between all of Zbest's banks to trick each of them into thinking that they must have more than just that $500,000. They do not. That is it. That is all of the money that Zbest has. They are beyond loans from banks and investors. They are beyond restoration jobs that do not exist. They are beyond credit card fraud, check kiting, forged documents, fake insurance claims, shell companies, phantom revenue, bounced checks, fake offices, fake invoices, and fake deposits. At this point, the only thing that could possibly save Zbest is being erroneously listed on the stock exchange. Fortunately for Zbest, no one, not even the accounting firm, is asking the right questions, because there's money on the table for everyone if this deal does in fact go through. So basically everyone's finger is in everyone else's ass, and everyone kinda likes it, so they don't ask any questions. Like, here's a question. Mark's a history major? That's the tip of the iceberg. If they weren't asking where Mark's credentials were, you better believe they weren't asking shit. Here's a list of things that Mark says the company was never even once asked for. Of course, there was one question so simple that they had been asked it from the very start. Zbest currently has $20 million worth of restoration work, one of which is a single job worth $7 million in Sacramento. Where is it? We must see it. No problem for Mark. He's gotten this story down to a science. Sorry, we can't because of confidentiality. Mark! You're not hearing me. We are talking about the largest restoration job in history. And I do not know where it is. I haven't seen a newspaper article about a building being destroyed. I haven't seen a press release. Forget the stock listing. I don't care about your confidentiality. You are going to show me this building, or I am going to end you. Zbest suddenly has a very urgent job. Guess who's back in the saddle and headed up to Sacramento to find a building? It's our favorite neo-Nazi Tom Paget! Go Tom, go Tom, go Tom! There is exactly one building in the entire area that Tom found that could even feasibly have $7 million in restoration done. The Capital Bank building. It is 2 stories shorter than the building they are claiming they were working on. No matter, this is their only shot. In fact, even finding this building is not worth congratulating. It means nothing. Unlike before, Zbest needs full access to it in order to pretend that they fixed it. And from the specific water sprinkler malfunction damage that Barry had been claiming for the last however many months. They don't even know if there are sprinklers inside of this building. It is impossible to overstate how risky what they are doing is. If one of the investigators goes to the bathroom and someone in there makes an offhand comment about how this is a new building, the entire sham goes up in flames. So what Tom does is he claims that he owns a huge company that needs to lease as much space as possible. A lie, of course. There is no company. But he needs the building owner to be excited about him being in the building. But he can't sign the contract immediately, though. He needs to bring in a couple major investors in on Sunday in order to inspect the area before he could commit to the space. Sunday, of course, because more people who could foil the plan will be in church instead of in this building. If this building were any older, there would be no vacant space left to pretend he was interested in leasing, and they would have no recourse. The day of the tour, as an additional effort for this Hail Mary, Tom bribes the security guard at the door with $50. I'm gonna be back here in a couple of hours with a man named Mark Moores, along with several others. He looks like this. If you could say something like, Mr. Moores, it's nice to see you again. I'd really appreciate that. Now all that's left to do is pray that this completely foreign building is something that Mark can convincingly present as if he's been through it several times before to inspectors who currently do not even trust him. If they go to jail for this stuff, which, like everything else they've ever done, they absolutely should, it will not be for lack of Tom having tried. On December 9th, 1986, Zbest is no longer a carpet cleaner. It's a NASDAQ stock. It could not have come at a more necessary time. They were truly flat broke and with so many debts that they needed to pay. From sales of the Zbest stock, they received a check for $11,549,224, which they would, as mentioned, never need to pay back. Zbest had once again been saved. Mark opens a champagne bottle. Tom opens his beloved Corona. And Barry, for the love of God, Barry, opens the cap to his pen to start rapidly writing checks to the creditors he owes. Everyone is in good spirits. Mark is humming, drinking songs that he learned in college. Tom is beside himself with glee. It took 4 whole years, but in a single stroke, Tom would finally hear the ocean when he fell asleep. And not even from like a couch or the floor, but from a bed. Barry stops writing. It's not enough. $11.5 million is not enough. The boy wonder had created a Ponzi scheme so large that even Wall Street could not fix it. It takes 5 months from this point for the facade to collapse, and from seemingly the most inconsequential place that it could. The man whose glasses he had broken had come back for revenge. On May 22nd, 1987, the Swansons had gotten the LA Times to write a front-page business article about his credit card fraud from years earlier. Whatever hesitation people had about questioning Barry was gone now. Once this article comes out, anyone who had ever even been in the same room as Barry had something to ask. Sure, this fraud didn't happen yesterday, but it also didn't happen 60 years ago. What do you mean one of Wall Street's newest darlings did thousands in credit card fraud with a flower shop? Within 5 days of the article coming out, Zbest's stock price had dropped by $11 per share. Barry, in a panic, releases some record fiscal numbers which he comes up with, which raise the stock price up slightly, but it is insufficient. No one can get past this flower company thing. Barry, for 5 consecutive years, has done nothing each day that he could leave for tomorrow. Tomorrow has finally come. Miraculously, this trivial flower shop, which would have likely been a tale lost to time if not for the Swansons having fought for 2 years to be heard, is the only thing that Barry has ever proactively protected himself from. You'll recall, he had the uncharacteristic foresight to put the ownership of the business under the name of his employee, Chip Arrington, and thereby never owned it. But it's as if the universe itself is tired of Barry. He's gotten away with far too many gigantic misgivings that he was entirely unprepared for. It would only make sense that his downfall would come from the smallest and only thing that he was prepared for. The media was willing to give him a second chance if he could do the easiest thing in the world. If this was Chip Arrington's doing, let us see his handwriting. Barry is out of lies to tell. At the end of his rope, and with every investor or accountant that has ever interacted with him rapidly evacuating themselves from the proximity of Zbest, there is exactly one person that makes sense to Barry for him to call. Tom picks up the phone from the side table in the beach house he's always wanted. It's over. 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 Barry's words drown out as Tom looks around the dream he's standing in. The sun outside, the sound of the seagulls, the scent of the ocean from his kitchen. He hadn't even been there a month, and it was already being taken away. If something goes wrong, said Barry. The fuck are you talking about? Tom cut in angrily. Nothing's going to go wrong. I don't want to hear that shit. I know. Barry continued. But if something goes wrong, I want you to know the only person I really care about is you. You were there with me when it all started, and we'll be together until the end. By this time, Tom Paget had stopped listening. We can come back. Get out of that house tonight. Checks are gonna bounce everywhere tomorrow. I'll get you the best lawyers money can buy. I'll take care of you. Just get out of there. The line goes dead. Tom, with tears in his eyes, stuffs as many belongings as he can into a single bag, and leaves the beach house behind entirely. The same house he had dreamed about while sleeping on the old apartment floor next to cockroaches. The same house that was supposed to mean that he had finally made it. This will be the last time he ever sees it, because Barry Minkow is going to call him in the morning and somehow fix this. Barry would make no attempt to contact Tom at any point in the following 6 months. The next time they would see each other would be in a holding cell. Barry is afraid to see Tom Paget. Tom is glad to see his best friend. The Zbest fraud was anything but harmless. The company at its peak, in the beginning of 1987, was worth somewhere in the ballpark of $200 to $300 million, not adjusted for inflation. Adjusted for inflation, we're talking something like 600. Thousands and thousands of earnest small investors were financially decimated instantaneously, as their $17 stock fell stratospherically to pennies before anything could be done. Any honest employee who worked in or around the company lost their job without notice. There was little to no recourse for any of them. Altogether, 12 people were indicted on fraud related to Zbest. Only 2 of them were unable to make bail. Do you want to guess which 2? Thank you so much for watching this episode of Meow Kid Mayhem. There is a lot more to this story, so if you liked what I did, or God forbid, found yourself empathizing with a neo-Nazi in 2026, please like, comment, and subscribe. It directly helps me with the algorithm and makes it so that maybe one day I can actually fulfill my dream of doing this storytelling for a living. More importantly, I have an hour more of this story to share with you guys about all the stuff I couldn't include here. This is a Patreon exclusive video because I would literally be demonetized if I uploaded it here. For just $3, you more than double the length of Zbest story ever told. It's already up there for your enjoyment. I'll also be uploading it here for YouTube members only, but it's $1 more here, so unless you have something against Patreon, go over there. Alright, peace. Special thanks to You Will Be Deleted, Aiden Green, Fawn, Tunny Parrish, Randy, Big Weepster, Amazing Adrian, Anna Huss, Orna Punda, Charles Hanchett, Cody Webb, Enigmatic, Eva, Gobbert Gobbington, Gromlet, Joe Hage, Kai's Mool, Kaz, Margot W, Matt Williams, Moldy Bread Millie, Not Niles, A Nice Girl, Ray, Violet, Yearly Autumn, and Zest for their special contributions.